Hello, this is Nick from PlanetReport.net. A study by a Dutch ecologist, Casper Hellman, has just came out, and he led a team of scientists. He works for Radboud University, and they were looking to investigate as to whether there's been a decline in flying insects in Europe. And the results are out, and they've found a decrease of 3/4 in just the last 30 years. From 1989 onwards. The traps captured all flying insects and then weighed the overall biomass, and then they compared the weights of the biomass from all the different years from 1989 up until now in 2017. And they did it in 63 nature reserves. So although it was in Germany, they said that this should apply to anywhere that's dominated by modern agriculture. And someone from the study said the widespread insect biomass decline is alarming, ever more so as all traps were placed in protected areas that are meant to preserve ecosystem functions and biodiversity. So these traps weren't put in areas, which have had a lot of building work or something, which you'd expect obviously a decline in insects and other plants and animals. These have been put in areas where you'd expect the numbers to be, doing better than what they've found. Now, they don't quite know as to what is the exact reason, but one suspect is it could be related to neonicotinoid insecticides, which are sprayed on crops. Now, before 2000, these chemicals were virtually unknown, but in the space of the last 2 decades, they've become the most widely used class of agricultural insecticides. They're quite persistent in the environment compared to the older types of insecticide, and they affect the central nervous system of the insects, and they bind to the receptors of the enzyme and then cause an extinction of the nerves, leading eventual paralysis and death. This specific neural pathway is more abundant in insects than warm-blooded animals, so these insecticides are selectively more toxic to insects than mammals. So when they first came out, it was supposedly great news because it meant that when they were spraying them, it wouldn't affect birds and mammals as much compared to the older style insecticides. However, in the EU, they imposed a moratorium on the use of 3 of the main ones of these neonicotinoid insecticides in 2013. And the European Food Safety Authority will soon decide if evidence warrants a total ban on neonicotinoids. So earlier in this year, in another study, there was the largest field trial to date involving honeybees, bumblebees and solitary bees at 33 oilseed rape sites in the UK, Germany and Hungary. And in wild bees, the study found a link between high levels of NNI residues and negative effects on reproduction, fewer queens in bumblebee hives and fewer egg cells in solitary bee nests. Now, apparently this study was funded by 2 makers of these pesticides, but they rejected the conclusions of the study, claiming the results were inconclusive. And then there's a quote here saying, "We remain confident that neonicotinoids are safe when used and applied responsibly." And that was Richard Schmuck of Bayer. I'll put a link to the original study I was talking about from Radboud University, and it's quite scientific. So, but if you read through it, you'll get a general. There's some graphs and things which explain how they did the study and what sort of traps they used and all this sort of stuff. It's quite interesting. But yeah, so in conclusion, they apparently have found a massive collapse in flying insects, and I think one of the reasons they did the study was because I think I read that it was something to do with people have noticed a lot fewer insects on the front of the cars when they're going on long journeys. In fact, I remember growing up, we used to have an old car, like a classic car, really. It was a really old car. I think it was like a Riley or something. It had like a big metal grate. And I remember as a boy looking in that, and it was just full of, it used to be absolutely full of flies and bees and everything. So, and this scientist apparently wanted to, this is what was in the inspiration. At least that's what I think. That's what I think I read anyway. But anyway, I don't know if you have you noticed any reduction of insects where you live, and where do you live? If you've got any comments, please leave them below in the comment section. In the meantime, if you can give it a like, if you thought this was a little bit interesting, please give it a like, so it'll help the channel. And also, please visit PlanetReport.net, which has many different categories regarding regions and subjects such as oceans, rainforests, big cats, and it's got news feeds from Twitter for all the different categories. So have a look at that. And also Twitter is twitter.com/PlanetReport.net. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.